When you're building software, one of the very first decisions you have to make is also one of the biggest. It's this fundamental choice that pits tradition against modernity and, really, simplicity against flexibility. So today, we're diving into that high-stakes architectural battle, monolithic versus microservices.
Okay, I want you to imagine something. You just landed the job. You're the new director of IT. And your first big task is to decide the architectural path for your company's entire digital future. One option looks kind of like a solid, familiar fortress. The other, well, it's more like a nimble network of interconnected units. Which one do you choose? No pressure, but your career might just hang on this decision.
And look, this isn't just some technical detail for the engineers to worry about. The architecture you pick is going to fundamentally change your company's ability to innovate, to scale, and to compete for years and years to come. It's a huge business decision that's just disguised as a tech problem.
So what are your options, really? Well, on one side, you've got the tried-and-true classic, the monolith. And on the other, you have the modern, super flexible contender, microservices. Let's get to know them both.
First up, the monolith. Just think of it like an all-in-one application. It's the traditional way software has been built for a long time, where every single function is part of one big, self-contained code base. You know, everything lives under one single roof.
So let's look at what's inside. You've got the user interface, what the customer sees, the server-side logic that does all the thinking, and the database where everything's stored. In a monolith, these are all bundled together into one tightly coupled unit. They're designed to be completely inseparable.
So why would you go this route? Well, for one thing, speed. A monolith can be way faster to develop and launch right out of the gate. Deployment is pretty simple. It's just one big file. And testing? Much more straightforward, since everything's in one place. That all-in-one design also makes it more contained, which means there's a smaller surface area for potential security attacks.
But, and this is a big but, here's the trade-off. That tightly coupled nature makes it pretty rigid. What if you want to try a new programming language or a cool new framework? It's tough. What if you need to scale up just one tiny feature because it's suddenly super popular? You might have to scale the entire application, which is, incredibly inefficient.
And that brings us to the alternative, microservices. Instead of building one giant block of code, you build your application as a collection of small, independent services that are all designed to talk to each other. The key word here is independence. Each service is its own little mini application. This means the team working on, say, user authentication can use totally different technology than the team working on the product catalog. This also makes it perfect for automation and continuous updates, so teams can push new features all on their own without having to wait for one massive coordinated release. And this is where the benefits really shine. You can scale just the services that need more power without touching the others. And if one service happens to fail, it doesn't cause a chain reaction and bring the whole application crashing down. That kind of resilience and flexibility is exactly why microservices are so perfect for massive, complex systems. But it's not all sunshine and roses. Managing and testing dozens of independent services is way more complex than dealing with just one monolith. You've got more potential security weak points, especially at the API gateways. Those are kind of like the front doors that manage how all these services talk to each other. And all that constant chatter between services can sometimes introduce a bit of lag.
Okay, so we've met the contenders. Now let's put them head-to-head and really break down the data you'll need to make that big decision.
This table really gets to the heart of it all. Just look at the time to market row. The monolith is faster. Initially, it's simpler to build, easier to debug right at the start. But then, as you look down at scalability and complexity, the tables completely turn. A monolith can become a real beast to manage as it grows, while microservices are built from the ground up to handle that complexity and scale, even if they do take more planning up front.
All right, theory is one thing, but let's see how these choices actually play out in the real world. Because, seeing what other companies did is a huge part of making the right call for yourself.
First up, let's talk about the scrappy startup. You've got a small team, a tight budget, and really only one goal: get a product to market as fast as humanly possible to see if anybody actually wants it. For this kind of scenario, the monolith is often the perfect fit. It's cost-effective, it lets a small team build and deploy super fast, it's absolutely ideal for creating a minimum viable product and MVP, the simplest version of your product that you can get out there to test the market without getting totally bogged down in architectural complexity. But now, let's imagine the complete opposite. A massive, global platform like Netflix that's dealing with millions of users, constantly fluctuating demand, and a never-ending need to roll out new features. This is where microservices become absolutely essential. In fact, Netflix famously transitioned from a monolith to microservices precisely to handle their incredible scale. It allows their recommendations team to deploy an update without affecting the billing system, and crucially, it makes sure that if one little component fails, your movie doesn't stop streaming.
And the scale we're talking about here is just staggering. $5.8 trillion. That was the size of the global e-commerce market in 2023. Giants like Amazon simply could not function without microservices powering their incredibly complex operations. Everything from the search bar to the checkout button to all the delivery logistics.
So all of this brings us right back to you and that career-defining decision. It's time to take these lessons and actually apply them to your specific situation.
You see, the most important factor isn't what's trendy. It's what your company actually needs. Are you a startup that's got to have speed? Or are you an enterprise that absolutely needs to scale? What are your goals, not just for today, but for the next 5 years?
Here's a quick checklist to help guide your thinking. First, your business logic. How complex is the data flow really? Then, fault tolerance. Can you afford for one little failure to take everything down? Think about your rate of change. Are you building something for today, or are you planning for rapid growth and lots of new features? And finally, the front end. Are you okay with one big code base, or do you need multiple independent ones? Answering these will point you in the right direction.
You know, this quote really just sums it all up perfectly. This isn't just about code. It's about your entire business philosophy. Are you prioritizing a fast launch and getting something working right now? Or are you building a foundation for massive long-term growth?
So as the new director of IT, that's the ultimate question you have to answer. Are you building for the company that you are today, or are you building for the one you plan to become, in a future that is still completely unwritten? The choice is yours.